Karen screamed outside my house with threats, but police showed up and hauled her away. What would you do if a Karen decided to make your home a stage for her outrageous threats, only to find herself being hauled away by the very authorities she tried to weaponize? The gentle hum of my vintage synthesizers and the quiet click of my mouse were the usual sounds filling my home studio, sonic sanctuary. Nestled in a quaint, historic neighborhood renowned for its artistic community, my house, a charming Victorian, was a place where I, Leo Maxwell, a freelance music composer for indie films, found endless inspiration. Our property lines were clearly defined by a whimsical, hand-painted picket fence and a riot of colorful, native wildflowers. Then came Karen, not with a friendly greeting, but with a jarring, ear-splitting shriek. I was putting the finishing touches on a delicate orchestral score when a woman in an ostentatious designer tracksuit, her face contorted in a furious grimace, stormed up my driveway. This was Brenda Albright, the notoriously aggressive president of the Heritage Heights Preservation Committee, a self-appointed group known for its extreme views on historical accuracy and neighborhood purity. "Mr. Maxwell," Brenda screamed, her voice piercing through my studio walls. "Your modern art installation in your front yard is a grotesque affront to Heritage Heights' historical integrity. It's an anachronism. It devalues our classic architecture and attracts undesirable elements. Your loud music is a blatant violation of our quiet enjoyment bylaws, and your unapproved exterior alterations are a disgrace. I demand you remove that monstrosity immediately, cease your auditory assaults, and restore your property to its original historical aesthetic, or face massive fines and immediate legal action. We will make your life a living hell until you comply." She then pulled out her phone, visibly recording me. The main conflict, audacious and utterly infuriating, was laid bare. Brenda, a self-appointed arbiter of historical accuracy, was demanding the removal of my perfectly legal, tastefully modern sculpture and accusing me of noise violations, all while threatening to make my life a living hell. Her demands were not only ludicrous, but rooted in a profound sense of entitlement and a pathological need for control, treating my artistic expression and livelihood as a personal affront to her rigid, prejudiced vision. Her attitude was one of blatant contempt, believing her self-proclaimed authority granted her the right to dictate artistic choices and impose rules on sovereign land, completely ignoring artistic freedom and personal property rights. I stepped outside, trying to keep my voice calm despite the tremor of rage coursing through me. "Ms. Albright," I said, "this is a sculpture, not an art installation, and it's perfectly legal. My music studio is soundproofed, and my volume levels are always within city ordinances. This property is privately owned, and while I respect the neighborhood's history, my artistic expression is not subject to your Preservation Committee's subjective aesthetic. I suggest you lower your voice and leave my property before I call the police for harassment." I even pointed to the small, discreet noise monitor I had installed, showing current decibel levels well below the limit. Brenda, however, merely scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Nonsense, Mr. Maxwell. Your monitor is irrelevant. Your expression is damaging our property values. We have the power to declare anything historically incompatible and force its removal. And as for harassment, you are harassing me with your noise and your ugly art. The police will see your defiance and side with us. They always do." Her tone was chillingly arrogant, her eyes holding a glint of perverse pleasure, as if she reveled in her perceived power to command authorities. Within minutes, a county sheriff's patrol car pulled up, lights flashing, alerted by Brenda's own frantic call to 911, claiming I was threatening her. Brenda immediately launched into a dramatic, fabricated account, claiming I was aggressively resisting and harassing her. The deputy, looking increasingly bewildered, began to question me. Then, Brenda's audacity escalated into a direct, shocking act of physical damage and reckless endangerment. While the deputy was distracted, Brenda, with a triumphant sneer, pointed to my newly planted rare rose bush, a gift from my late grandmother, carefully cultivated at the base of my fence. "And remove that invasive species. It's unapproved flora," she shrieked. One of her committee members, a nervous-looking man clearly trying to appease her, hesitantly approached the rose bush. With a grunt of effort, he kicked at the base of the rose bush, tearing it from its roots and trampling it underfoot. Then, Brenda herself, with a perverse sense of satisfaction, grabbed a large can of neon pink spray paint from her bag and, with a vicious grin, defaced my entire hand-painted picket fence, covering it with crude, angry graffiti and threats against me and my property. It was a calculated, malicious act designed to damage my property, destroy a sentimental item, and visually intimidate me. Right after Brenda's act of destruction and brazen vandalism, a crucial twist unfolded from an unexpected source. Unbeknownst to Brenda, my outdoor studio speakers, connected to my professional audio interface, had a hidden, high-fidelity audio recording function that I used to capture ambient sounds for film scores. The microphone, camouflaged as a garden ornament, was perfectly positioned to capture Brenda's entire tirade, her explicit threats, her commands to her minion, and even the subtle sounds of the rose bush being destroyed and the spray paint hitting the fence. The audio was crystal clear, capturing every word, every shriek, every command. Crucially, the recording also captured a muffled conversation from a week prior, where Brenda was heard speaking with a local city council member, explicitly stating her intention to force out any non-conforming residents to clear the way for higher-value properties and to restructure the zoning laws to exclude undesirable businesses like that noise-making studio. The larger consequence of Brenda's actions became terrifyingly clear. My music studio wasn't just my personal workspace. It was the unofficial training ground for a local youth music program, Harmony Haven, providing free lessons and a creative outlet for at-risk teenagers from disadvantaged backgrounds. Her deliberate disruption of my work, her threats, and her vandalism weren't just petty acts of malice. They directly jeopardized a critical public service initiative, threatening to derail the program's funding and discouraging engagement from vulnerable youth who relied on it for mentorship and artistic expression. Her petty vendetta had escalated into a direct assault on community welfare and artistic development, elevating her personal malice to a matter of profound civic and ethical significance. Armed with my irrefutable audio recording, including the zoning conspiracy, the furious director of Harmony Haven, and my own burning desire for justice, I was done being subtle. When the county sheriff's deputy, looking utterly perplexed, finally returned to us, Brenda was still loudly complaining about aggressive artists and uncooperative citizens. "Officer, this man is a menace. He's resisting the committee's authority." "Actually, Ms. Albright," I retorted, my voice cutting through her bluster, amplified by the news cameras that had just pulled up, having been tipped off by the Harmony Haven director. "Your historical preservation is about to become an arrest for felony vandalism, criminal harassment, and conspiracy to commit fraud." I then played my high-fidelity audio recording onto a large, portable speaker for the deputy and the news crew. The raw, unedited audio of Brenda's malicious acts filled the air. Her explicit threats, her command to destroy the rose bush, the sounds of the fence being defaced, and the damning recording of her conspiring with the city council member about changing zoning laws to force me out. The deputy looked aghast, and the assembled news crew gasped. Brenda's face went from smug confidence to utter, white-faced terror. "That's manipulated. That recording is illegal. This is a malicious attack on my character and the committee's integrity," she shrieked, desperately trying to manipulate the situation, her voice shrill and breaking. She started pointing fingers, trying to blame my microphone, me, anyone but herself. Just as her pathetic denials reached their peak, the silence was shattered by the distinct wail of additional sirens. More county sheriff's vehicles, but also a sleek black SUV marked State Attorney General's Office, Public Integrity Unit, pulled up. Out of the lead vehicle stepped a grim-faced state prosecutor, followed by a representative from the National Endowment for the Arts, NEA, Grants Compliance Division, and the furious director of Harmony Haven. The NEA representative spoke first, his voice cold and cutting. "Ms. Albright, your actions have directly impacted a federally funded youth arts program and a recognized artist. This is a severe civil violation and potentially a criminal one." The state AG prosecutor stepped forward. "And Ms. Albright, We've also been investigating reports of widespread abuse of power and financial irregularities within the Heritage Heights Preservation Committee, specifically regarding the coercive collection of restoration fees and the diversion of committee funds to shell corporations ostensibly for neighborhood beautification projects. Your documented acts of felony vandalism, criminal harassment, and conspiracy to illegally rezone properties and force out independent residents align perfectly with these ongoing investigations. Furthermore, we have evidence of significant sums of committee funds being diverted to offshore accounts linked to your shell corporations, ostensibly for development projects that never materialized, and a history of utilizing aggressive tactics to control neighborhood aesthetics for personal financial gain. A nervous murmur rippled through the gathered Heritage Heights residents, who had followed the commotion, as one stammered to the state AG. She told us the restoration fees were for our new historic fountain. We had no idea the money was going to her brother's antique business in Switzerland. It was a chilling revelation. Brenda wasn't just a busybody. She was a criminal mastermind, systematically defrauding her own members, attempting to seize local influence through illegal means, and sabotaging critical public welfare initiatives for massive personal profit, with the historical accuracy complaints merely a cover for her grand scheme. A past incident, whispered among her former colleagues, revealed that Brenda had been previously disbarred from a historical society for systematic abuse of public trust. The consequences for Brenda Albright were immediate and utterly devastating. She was arrested by state and local authorities on multiple charges, including state offenses for conspiracy to commit fraud, felony vandalism, criminal harassment, and later, as the full extent of the fraud was uncovered, for massive embezzlement, wire fraud, and racketeering. The Heritage Heights Preservation Committee was placed under immediate state oversight, its assets frozen, and a full forensic audit exposed tens of millions in stolen funds, a systematic scheme orchestrated by Brenda and her network. Her carefully cultivated image as the benevolent community leader shattered into irreparable pieces. The residents she had once intimidated and defrauded now turned on her, furious at being manipulated and exploited, their funds stolen, and their properties facing legal battles due to her criminal actions. Her social circles, built on an illusion of wealth and influence, abandoned her completely, unwilling to be associated with such public disgrace. Her vast properties, her fortune, her status, her perceived power all confiscated as part of the ongoing investigation and subsequent lawsuits. She lost everything: her freedom, her fortune, and her reputation. The ultimate irony was that her audacious attempt to control my home and make my life a living hell led to the complete unraveling of her vast, illegal enterprise, culminating in a lengthy state prison sentence. As for Sonic Sanctuary, it truly became a haven of creativity. The fence was repainted by local artists, the rose bush carefully replanted by the Harmony Haven kids, and the music program flourished, now with overwhelming community support. The satisfaction was immense, watching her literal and figurative empire crumble before her eyes, a quiet triumph of justice and artistic freedom over arrogant greed and rampant criminality. What's your take on this? When someone so brazenly abuses power, commits felony vandalism, attempts to destroy public welfare initiatives, and engages in widespread fraud, does their complete and utter downfall, even to state prison, truly serve justice? Or is there a point where the consequences become too extreme?